Okay, so how the mistake happened? Simple answer that when the developer trusts the user input, the developer allowed the user to use semicolon, which is impossible or rarely to find someone who has semicolon or union select in his username. Another question we have here, which is where to find SQL injection flaw. First place we can find is in normal GET request, which is the one that we see in URL. Number one here, which is our user input, which means we can test it for SQL injection. Second place is post request. Like when you're submitting some data to the web app, you use the post request. For example, username and password. When you click on enter or confirm, you send post request to the web app. We can manipulate it using web app proxy server like Burp Suite or Zap. Another place also is header parameter. As we see in this figure, that's how it looks like to send a GET or post request to the web app. So header parameters like referrer, host or user agent. You can manipulate them also using web app proxy to test them for SQL injection. Last one we have is cookies. Cookies parameter will be something like cookie ID equal 444, which means the web app directly or indirectly is dealing with database. So testing this field is important. How can I detect SQL injection? As we mentioned that we have fields to test it, but if there is field vulnerable to SQL injection, how can I know it? Well, we can detect it using any special character. Any special character that works in SQL, like single quote, double quote, hash, semicolon, @sign, or backslash. But most used single or double quote and backslash. How to take advantage of SQL injection flaws. So let's try to exploit SQL injection. We have many ways to exploit it, but let's organize the ideas from the beginning. First of all, we have to find the injection point. Like in GET or POST request, there is a vulnerable parameter, or a header parameter, or cookies. And after that, you checked it using single or double quotes. Here I'm talking about SQL injection error based, which means I enter input like 2 and single quote, and the web app show me a SQL error. And from this error, I can exploit it, because there are other cases which there is no error at all. So after finding the SQL error, we have to fix it before exploiting it. So let's see how it will be. I will go to down vulnerable web app. I will let the security level low. And I will go to SQL injection. Here I have input field, which mostly it's vulnerable to SQL injection. Firstly, I want to test it with number 3. And okay, here we have first name, and here we have surname. So I can figure out the query when it will go from web app to the database. It will be like something like select. So why I think when I figure out the query from the web application to the database, it will be something like that, because the result, it came from the web app to me. Here we have first name, which is column, and here we have another column, which is surname. Maybe there is more columns, so I am not sure 100% of that. Okay, so let me test it with single quote. And okay, here we have SQL error, which says that there is here additional quote, so he does not understand why it is here. Is it close for this one or additional one? So he does not get it. Okay, so after seeing the error, here it's like 1 2 and here 1 2. Okay, so if I put something like this, and it will be our field, our user input field. Okay, so let it something like that, and when I do 3 with single quote, it will be like that. So if I tried like that with backslash, it will be like that. So until now the process is great. Why? Because we detected the SQL error here, and we know this field is vulnerable to SQL injection. Let's continue our journey we agreed that if I put single quote, it will print a SQL error. But what if I add a comment for it? Like here, if I put a comment after here, like something like that. Comment is cancelling everything which come after it, so it will cancel both of these single quotes. But before that, let's mention the comments for SQL. They are hashtag and dash dash and this sign. And let's see what will happen if I put hashtag here. Okay, there is no error, there is no SQL error, but if I didn't put the hashtag, it will give me a SQL error. Right now we fixed the query by adding hashtag for it. So for now we found where is the vulnerable input, and we are sure that's vulnerable, and we fix the SQL query. So what now? It's time for SQL injection blind, which when we type a false query like 2 or like 3 with single quote, it gave us error, yeah? But in SQL blind, it does not give us anything. So how can we detect it? I have two options. First one, using operators like true or false, 1 or 0, or could be time-based SQL injection. So again, let's go to SQL injection blind. We have input field here. If I type 4, it says that user ID exists. If I type 4 with single quote, it says user ID is missing from the database. So I detected, but how can I fix it again? I will use operators, so I can type 4 with single quote and so the user ID exists in the database, which is the query is fixed right now. So how the statement will be looks like. So the payload that I used, which is 4 and a equal a, and when I put it here, it will be something like that. This one open for this one open for this one, and this one for this one, and this one for this one, and the last one for the first one. So what I'm trying to say, which is we can notice that every open single quote has closed single quote. So again, it says it's true and user exists in the database. This was an example about blind SQL injection using operators. Now I wanna try time-based SQL injection. Let's take a quick example, which I will use like 4 and sleep for 10 minutes, and after that I will comment everything that come after that. Okay, we are waiting like 10 minutes until the web app refresh. So that's a proof that my query is true one. If I try like double quote or without comment, like okay, this one and sleep 10 without comment, it will refresh directly without waiting like 10 seconds. So for now, we know how to detect the input field, if it is vulnerable or not, and we reversed engineer the statement and how to fix the query. So now let's find the total number of vulnerable columns in the table. I'm gonna go to SQL injection, and let me say that, do you remember when we said that in union the number of columns in the first statement should be the same number of columns for the second statement? So in this web app, it returns the result with two values, like first name and surname. I can guess that here it used only two columns, which is first name and surname column, but it's not 100% true, because it could use more columns that's not shown in the page. So I can be sure 100% by testing it. I will use order by and number. It could be true, it could be 3, it could be 4, like I will put it like n. The order by keyword takes a column name or number and orders the result set according to the values in that column. but we can use it to know the number of columns. I will start with the fixed query, which is like 4. And yeah, the query is working. I'm gonna use the same one, but order by 2. So the first column is found in the system. The second column also found in the system. So let me try order by 3 and okay, here we have unknown column 3 in order clause, which he cannot find the third column. So we are 100% that the total number of columns are 2. So let's go back to union statement. The number of columns in the first sentence are 2. Here and here. Then the number of columns in the second sentence will be 2. So my query, if I will use union, it will be something like for union select 1 and 2, and I will put the hashtag to fix the query. So the whole query will be like this. So both of them are working, which is 4 here, and the union select 1, 2, which is here. Now let's prove that it's vulnerable to SQL injection and we can retrieve data from the database. I will use simple function, which is version. So how can combine version from this query? I will take version here and I will put it instead of one of these columns. I will put it in instead of 2, and I will take it copy and go here and paste. So yeah, I got the version of the system. Let me use another one, which is user. I will try putting it in the first one and take all of it copy and go here. And I got root localhost is the user that interact in the web application, and here the version of the system. There is another one, which is database. I cannot add it here as like this because here we must use only 2 columns, so I will remove one of them to be 2 only. I will take it copy, and yeah, the name of the database is dvwa and the username is root at localhost. So how to dump the database? The valid query we have is like for and comment, and it's a valid query. But before comment it, I want to dump the table using union. To use union, we have to know the number of columns which used in the first statement, and we know it, which are 2 columns. Here I gonna cheat and suppose I know the name of these 2 columns by viewing the source. So first 2 columns are last name and first name, and the table is called users, so it will be something like first name, okay, but in like this, and this one will be. So how the query will be looks like. First of all, I am gonna use the fixed query, which is like this, but before the comment I will insert my union statement. So it will be like union select first name last name from users and finish it by the comment. So if I'm gonna take it and put it in the input field, okay, it gave me all the data which is in first name and last name column, and the statement will be like this. So what did I made? I used fix query here and I inserted my union statement here. Union here is to make another select statement, and I selected that I want to retrieve data from first name column and last name column from table called users. Of course, in real-world scenario, you will use tools and payloads, but the idea I explained how these payloads work. That's all for today, and see you in the next video.